Hey Vikes, today we're not having the regular news, so check the bulletin on Schoology for updates. Instead, we have a special story on suicide. Suicide is a subject that we do not like to talk about, but needs to be addressed. Today we have a story about a person in our school who is struggling with the topic of suicide.
Last April, the rapper Logic came out with the song 1-800-273-8255, which is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. He performed the song at the VMAs in September, which is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. Since then, calls to the Lifeline have increased by 50%. One of Seaman High School's very own teachers has recently suffered a loss from suicide.
I guess it kind of started one Thursday evening. We were going to go up to see my brother that weekend for the 4th of July this past summer. And that night I was out with some friends and I got a call from him and just said, hey, you may not come up this weekend. He was really frustrated. He and his fiance had kind of gotten into an argument about work. And shortly after I got a phone call from his fiance who said, hey, I don't know what your brother's told you, but we had a big argument, kind of boiled down to really finances is what it happened. And didn't surprise me a lot because my brother he's really, really good with people, but really, really bad with money. And so I didn't, kind of something that wasn't just a big shocker to me. And so she kind of told me the story, and so they agreed, or he, I guess, left that evening to go stay over. They had a neighbor's house that was empty, so that he was going to go sleep with the neighbors, and they were trying to work things out. And so I called my brother back, and I was going to, instead of going up there that weekend, then he was going to come up to Topeka and hang out with us. And it just, at the time, it didn't seem like a lot. I was a little bit worried. Then kind of as the evening got on, I started to kind of worry about my brother. I'd text him, hey, everything okay? Just seeing how you're doing. And it was, oh, I'm doing fine. I'll let you know in the morning how things are going. And by the next morning, I hadn't heard anything from him. And so about 9 o'clock that next morning, his fiance had called me and said, hey, have you heard anything from your brother? I said, I haven't heard anything. She said, oh, maybe he just went out to see some friends, and he left and was just trying to get away for a little bit. And so about 11 o'clock, I asked her if she'd go check on him, and because I couldn't get a hold of him, and she did, and she had found him. He had hung himself. And it was really just a shock. Nobody realized what was going on, how bad things were going, but it kind of came out through the whole situation that it wasn't just the finances that they were arguing about in his work, but that he had a surgery maybe a year or two before that for a hernia that he had suffered while he was at work, and through the whole process he got addicted to pain pills, and so that part of that came out too, that was part of the reason things that were going on as far as why they were arguing, and just nobody knew it. She didn't know it going into this, and none of his siblings knew it either, and so it's just an absolute devastating thing to find out on that Friday morning. So we had went up there then that afternoon. My wife and I went out to their house to try to get things taken care of at the lake. He lived at the Lake of the Ozarks, and so we were working there, and he had a 1-year-old daughter she had just turned 1 a month before that, and I look back at it and feel like there were a lot of things that maybe I missed. Maybe it was I could have done this better, and for a long time, for a while, for a few days, a week or so, I put a lot of blame on myself as far as what if I went up that night, when I talked to him instead of waiting till the next day. Is there somebody I could have called? Is there somebody I could have done this and gotten him help? But it was just something that was so unexpected and such a shock that I don't think he realized the toll that it was going to take on everybody. But for my brother, he didn't see a way out of the situation. He was in an argument with his fiance and didn't know that. I don't think he realized that he could get help and he could get over his addiction to the pain pills, and that finances are something people fight about, but they can work those out. And he had a good job. He had a great family. He lived in a nice area, and it was just so much going on for him. But just so much that people didn't realize as well.
I just want to dedicate this song to John Ruda and his family and friends, and just say I'm going to miss that guy. I really am. He was a hell of a guy and so fun to hang out with and be around, and I worked with him for quite a few years. Been on some trips with him, went to Washington, D.C. a few times with him and hang out with the Jersey boys. And we had some awesome times, and that's stuff I'll never forget. And just what a great person he was, and just want to remember the good times we had. So, without further ado, this is dedicated to him and his family and friends. So, hope you guys enjoy, and pray for his family, would you?
There's just days, the little things that just remind you of people, of your brother, there's a song you hear on the radio and it makes you think of him, and just wish you could call him or send him a message, and just that's what I miss the most, is just being able to just say, hey, what's going on?
When someone close to you experiences a loss, it is important that you talk with them during this time.
A lot of us just don't know what to say or what to do, so we just don't do anything or say anything. And that's not necessarily good either. That makes the person feel even more isolated, and it's hurtful to not understand or to not affirm that you understand that something's happened.
I think one thing also that kind of got me, I was taking classes, right? I still am taking classes to become a school counselor, and we had, that next week, our unit was over depression and taking an inventory or an assessment to kind of measure depression. And as I went through, and then it may be, like hindsight 2020, but you look at that, and my brother definitely would have fit into that scale, but there was never any help given.
One of these signs would be some anxiety. Maybe it's situational, maybe it's an increased anxiety. Situational might be job stress or family stress, that type of thing. Another one can be hopelessness. They're just at this point where they just feel hopeless about everything and everyone. It's kind of like the Eeyore syndrome. They're just sad and there's no reason for it, and it's uncommon. Another one is feeling withdrawn or isolating themselves. So all of a sudden you notice your friends aren't partaking in any of the events that you have planned, or maybe they're canceling at the last minute constantly, and then you see them at school and maybe they're not speaking to you as often, and you just see them withdrawing from what they usually do, or isolating themselves, being alone. Another sign would be sleeping. A lot of times people who are depressed and are thinking about suicide, a lot of times they start sleeping a whole lot, or they sleep very little, which then increases the anxiety. These are some of the signs. Another one, increased alcohol use or drug use. So if you see one of your friends start drinking a lot more or start using drugs a lot more, this could indicate that there's some things going on and they're trying to cope.
It's really hard on our family now. Just when we get together, there's just something missing. Last month we got together for our nephew's first birthday, and I have two older sisters, and we were all there, and there was just still that piece missing. And this year's going to be really difficult, just because of the first, right? I don't know what it'll be like at holidays and getting together for Christmas and things like that. And just reach out and get help is probably my biggest thing.
September was Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. If you or someone you know is having suicidal thoughts, make sure you reach out and get help.
If you or anyone you know is having thoughts of suicide, please talk to a school counselor, trusted adult, or call the suicide hotline at 1-800-273-8255. Speak up, you are not alone.